This is Fionnuala Quinlan, the Irish ambassador to Kenya. Welcome on set. We're glad to have you.
Thank you.
About 6 weeks now, how has it been?
Wonderful. Great. I'm really enjoying it. Yeah, and I mean, there's such strong relationships, politically, trade relationships, people-to-people relationships, of course, dating back many decades, that we've a really strong relationship and a lot to build, I think.
Right. One of those relationships, of course, is in agriculture. There is a very strong agricultural industry in Ireland. So how does Kenya, or what are you doing, the embassy, of course, the Kenyan government, as well as the Ireland government, to just build agriculture in Kenya?
Absolutely. Well, of course, it's a critical part of the Kenyan economy, as it is of the Irish economy. So Ireland moved from being a really agrarian economy now to being really globalised, open and so forth, and agribusiness played a really big role in that. So what we're doing is trying to share the lessons with Kenya to support your own trajectory here. And really, I think a key part in that has been partnerships between, for example, KBC and the Irish equivalent on seed certification. So we're now running a pilot project in Nandarrow County where we're supporting improved seeds for farmers, and the outcome of that pilot project so far has been a quadrupling in harvests, in produce.
Right.
So that's a huge increase, and we'd like to see that replicated more broadly. But we're also, one of the things the Irish government has done is we have the Africa Agri Development Fund, which is a really targeted funding mechanism for Irish companies in the agribusiness field to partner with Kenyan companies in the agribusiness field, so that we can improve market access and really build partnerships at a kind of, I guess, a micro level. And that's been quite successful. We have a number of Kenyan companies partnering with Irish companies now on that front, and we hope to see more of that.
Right. What can Kenya learn from Ireland in terms of even the agricultural practices?
Well, I guess the seed certification and improving seeds is a big part of it, because of course farmers will tell you that'll really increase yields. And that's something that Ireland is working very strategically with Kenya on. So we have Irish partners in that field working with their Kenyan counterparts. In fact, 6 KBC seed certification staff were just in Ireland last month looking at our models. So that's a big area. And then, of course, in private sector development more broadly, which of course agribusiness is a big part of, Ireland is working with Kenya on a number of very targeted programs. So one of those is we provide quite a bit of support to KenInvest to develop a one-stop shop for investors. So that when foreign direct investors come to Kenya, they can go into this one office suite. I visited it myself last week and I saw it. They can go in and they can register their business, they can get information about permits, they can speak to KRA all in one place and speak to experts in their sector or their geographical region. So that's going to be very important, I think. I mean, it's already operating. We're also supporting KEPSA to build a business hub for their investors to access information about trade and investment opportunities, and critically, I think, to support women entrepreneurs to scale up. Because, I mean, obviously, I know Kenyan women are fantastic, very driven, very entrepreneurial, but many of them, you know, they're just trying to get their businesses over that initial hump, and that's something that we see could be a really big contribution to not only the Kenyan economy, of course, but Kenyan society, because, you know, a lot of women will invest it back in their families and in education and so forth. So that's a virtuous cycle.
Right. Even as we talk about opportunities for entrepreneurs, how are you helping to find markets, even to open up the markets for these entrepreneurs?
So a critical way that Ireland is supporting entrepreneurship in Kenya is actually through a very strategic competition called Young Scientists Kenya. Now, the National Exhibition of Young Scientists Kenya takes place just next month, between the 6th and 9th of August. President Kenyatta is our patron. And basically how this Young Scientists competition works is we reach schools in all 47 counties, working very closely with the Ministry of Education, and Safaricom is our big sponsor, but we reach schools and we really try to engender in students a real sense of excitement about the possibilities of science and about science and innovation careers. Because really what we're trying to do is nurture the next generation of entrepreneurs and innovators. So between the 6th and the 9th of August at the KICC, we'll have over 400 students from more than 200 schools in all of Kenya's 47 counties coming together and displaying their projects, they're scientific and they're innovative projects.
Right.
And there'll be winners across all the categories. But that's that's a kind of a longer term project, I guess. But again, it started in Ireland. We had Young Scientists Ireland for 50 years ago it started, and we saw that played a really critical role in making Ireland not only one of the best educated populations in the world, but also scoring very highly in science, innovation, entrepreneurship and so forth. So again, we just see the potential of that, and obviously I'm delighted to say President Kenyatta did as well, because he became the patron of that competition.
Right, of course that would be very important. Even the Big Four agenda, we cannot achieve this without the innovation.
Absolutely,
Right.
absolutely. I mean, definitely I think right across all of our areas of cooperation with Kenya, we're really seeking to support and work towards the Big Four agenda, because and I think you can see that clearly in agribusiness, in the food and security, of course, through the potato project, in the innovation sector, and in trying to build Kenyan and Irish trade as well. We've had so many high-level visits between both countries. We're currently negotiating a double taxation agreement with Kenya, so there's really a lot of work going on in both sides to deepen our trade and economic relationships.
Right, and how easy is it how do you find the ease of doing business in Kenya?
I think obviously statistics will show, of course, that Kenya's made a lot of improvements in this field. I think, risen now to, 61st place in terms of ease of doing business. Obviously, of course, there are still constraints. And I know that EU ambassadors had a really productive meeting with President Kenyatta at the State House, during which they discussed some of the barriers and the issues that European companies in Kenya were finding. And, overall, I think there's a lot of goodwill and of course, Kenya wants foreign direct investment and to improve the trade and trading environment. So I think we've seen a lot of improvements, and that's reflected in the figures, but obviously there's always room for more improvement here as elsewhere. So that's definitely something that we're hoping to build through our support to Ken Invest and KEPSA and our own work in the economic sphere.
Right. Let's talk about matters education. Is there any way that Ireland is supporting Kenya in even exchange of information, exchange of opportunities in the education sector? Yeah.
Well, obviously Young Scientists Kenya is a very good example, but we also have a fellowships program, and that's been used. It's not very big, but it's very targeted. So again, we look to see where our partners could really use some support in this field, and we provide scholarships to key staff members. So that's one big area. We're also looking, education is a big sector for us in terms of where international students go to college.
Right.
So we see Ireland, Ireland has some of the world's top class universities, obviously English speaking, very young population, very dynamic and vibrant place. International students love it. So we're hoping to have more Kenyan students come and study in Ireland. In fact, just in the next week or so, we have 2 of our major universities coming over to discuss how we can build on that. Towards the end of the month, we're looking at having a fair and really kind of bringing some of the agents and the people who are involved in the sphere together to see how can Ireland become a more attractive destination. And actually the embassy now can process education visas directly, which will really reduce the waiting time, because I know in the past, people want these decisions quickly, of course, and the very fact that we can now make those decisions at our office in Nairobi means that potential Kenyan students are going to be hearing much more quickly on whether that's a possibility. But so we see really great potential there.
Yeah, and what is the future of the Kenya-Ireland relationship as we close?
Well, we have really strong relationships, and I think as we were discussing just a little before, Betty, they really date back 100 years or more. We had a lot of missionaries who came to Kenya, spent their lives here, very often delivering really, quality health and education projects. And oftentimes that's what Kenyan people speak to me about, their experience of having been taught by an Irish person. We now have very strong business relationships, obviously political relationships. Our Deputy Prime Minister was here just 18 months ago.
Right.
He met with key, your foreign minister. He had a really good meeting with President Kenyatta. I presented credentials myself just about 5 weeks ago, and in fact President Kenyatta said he also wants to really build our political and economic relations. So I think we have a very, very strong foundation on which to move forward, and we have a lot we've a lot in common. Our history of colonization, our history of migration, our development journeys. So there's huge similarities between us, and I think as a people we love to have fun, we love to meet up over good food. So really very, very, very positive relations, I'm confident.
All right. Thank you very much, Finland.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Sorry, I got
That's
that
okay.
wrong again.
That's okay. That's okay.
Yeah,
Thank you, Betty.
Thank you very much
My
for
pleasure.
that insightful interview
Very
on matters
good.
Ireland and Kenya relations.
Good. Very
Awesome.
good.
That was Fionnuala Quinlan. She is the Irish ambassador to Kenya. We now take a short break. We will be back with more business news.